The Supreme Court gutted one of the most important voting rights tools that Black America has ever had. And a lot of people don't even know what they took. We should talk about what just happened and why it's been happening for over 150 years. I'm Alante Serene, and you're watching Melanin Mythbusters, who explore all sorts of Black milestones, mysteries, memories, and myths. So let's get into it. You may think that Black people got the right to vote in 1965, but the gag is that happened a century before in 1870 with the 15th Amendment. That amendment says you can't deny the right to vote based on race, but it didn't say anything about literacy tests, poll taxes, or understanding clauses. And by the 1890s, most of the former Confederate states that had just lost a war over the right to enslave Black people built an entire system around those loopholes. Basically, if a white man couldn't read, they'd pass him anyway. But if a Black man missed a single word, he'd fail. Louisiana used something called the Grandfather Clause. So if your grandpa could vote before the Civil War, you didn't have to take a literacy test. And guess whose grandfathers couldn't vote before the war? By 1904, fewer than 1% of eligible Black men in Louisiana were registered to vote. Local sheriffs destroyed registration lists, and registrars made Black people recite the Constitution from memory. So even though states technically weren't saying no Black voters allowed, they designed the rules to get the same results. But fast forward to the 1950s and 60s, and voting became a huge part of the Civil Rights Movement. When the Voting Rights Act passed in 1965, it changed everything. Section 5 required certain states to get federal approval before changing any voting laws. And Section 2 made any voting rule illegal if it discriminated on the basis of race, even if that wasn't the intent. That gave Black communities, Native nations, and Latino voters a way to challenge laws that made voting harder, even if those laws never technically mentioned race. Within 5 years, Black voter registration in the South doubled. In Mississippi, it jumped from 7% to nearly 60% by 1970. And Section 2 struck down unfair redistricting maps across Alabama, Georgia, Texas, and beyond. Plus, it helped create more Black majority districts, so communities could finally elect leaders that looked like them and fought for them. But every generation, there are people who try to weaken it. In 2013, the Supreme Court gutted Section 5, saying federal oversight was outdated, which caused dozens of states to pass new voter ID laws, close polling places, and redraw district maps. So Section 2 became one of the last major tools left to fight back. But they just came for that too. In a 6-3 decision, the Supreme Court struck down the Louisiana congressional district map. That map created a second majority Black district, which helped give Black residents, who make up 1 in 3 Louisianans, fair representation. But the court called it unconstitutional. And that ruling makes Section 2 voting right cases much harder to win. For years, communities could challenge voting maps based on discriminatory outcomes or effects. But now, this means you'll need much stronger evidence that race was a driving force behind the maps, even when the impact hits Black voters the hardest. And of course, the same Confederate states that invented Jim Crow are moving first. Some Democrat leaders are calling this the new Jim Crow, and they've got a point. It's clear that even 150 years later, the fight for voting rights isn't over. If you got this far, comment and let us know if you're registered to vote. Follow Melanin Mythbusters to explore more Black milestones, mysteries, memories, and myths.